Hello and welcome back. It's another Craig and Dave Unscripted. We're enjoying getting back into this series. Was quite a gap. Well, we've got an exciting one for you today. Dave has tracked down and we've got a lovely lady called Angie from CodeMonkey. So we're going to bring Angie in right away. Hi, Angie.
Hello.
So we're actually we're opposite ends of the world, aren't we? Angie's over in Arizona. We're in the UK. So I think it's 10 a.m. for you at the moment.
It is, yes.
Yeah, 6 p.m. for us. So we found a good time where we're not having to bother each other in the middle of the night. But so let's just get sort of cracking straight in. So for people who don't know, this session's all about CodeMonkey, and Andy's very kindly given up the time. But who is CodeMonkey for? What is it?
So very excited to share with you and your viewers. Thank you for having me. First off, CodeMonkey is such an exciting product. I've been in EdTech for almost 10 years now, and this has just been a product that is very engaging even for myself. But to answer your question, CodeMonkey was specifically created for teachers and students and schools to teach students how to code and support teachers in how to do that without having any coding experience of their own.
Common problem, yeah.
Yes.
Common problem.
To make it very, very comfortable for them. And I think we do a great job of that.
And I think I'm right in saying, because I'm quite out the loop with this, I think I'm coming at this new, which is nice. It's aimed at what we would call here the primary school market. So young children, like really getting into coding for the first time.
Yes, absolutely.
So what age, not talking like KS1, or what physical age are we talking there then for?
So we market it as kindergarten through 8th grade, which in the States would be anywhere from about 5 years of age to about 14 to 16 years of age. However, we do find that even though CodeMonkey is one of the very few platforms or resources in the States that provides resources for that younger group, K through 3, but we find that it's used actually quite a bit in middle school and higher education to introduce skills where students have never had exposure to coding in the past.
Yeah, that's really
for reference for our audience then here in the UK. So when we talk about 9th grade in the US, we're talking about year 10 in the UK. So really the product is aimed at what we would call infant school or preschool, all the way through primary school and through to our key stage 3. But as you say, there are also older learners that use it as well. So that's the context for people in the UK. This is primarily junior school, key stage 2, key stage 3.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You said starting at kind of kindergarten, age 5, because I mean, I wouldn't expect you to be aware of this. We had a big shift in sort of computer science education in the UK in the last decade, and they introduced that the concept of being able to code as a fundamental thing from age 5, the first time they come into school. This is an interesting seeing that reflected around the world. Yeah. And it's one thing for a government to say this is important, but it's another thing then to have the tools for teachers to use. Right, without me going off on my soapbox then, next question. So give us a little bit about the history of CodeMonkey then.
Sure. So the founders of CodeMonkey, Jonathan and Ido Shore, started coding themselves in 4th grade. That's when they were exposed to coding. And as they continued through their education and learned more and more about coding, they quickly realized with the way the world is going with technology that coding skills were going to be imperative, necessary, and very powerful for a student or child to be successful. So Jonathan actually began teaching students how to code on his own, and had such a positive and successful experience with that. And the students had a positive and successful experience with that. So in January of 2014, Jonathan and Ido Shore launched CodeMonkey as a company. And in February of that same year, so just a month later, they launched our first course online on the platform, which is still the most popular course that is utilized by our users, which is a text-based course called Coding Adventure. Since then, we've partnered with organizations such as coding.org or code.org, and we have partners all around the world who also assist in providing this resource to students and children in their region. And since then, we have gone from text-based only to block-based coding, Python coding. And when we get a little more into the demonstration, I'll show you how we are moving away from being just a supplemental coding curriculum to more of a core curriculum for computer science and technology.
Oh, brilliant.
See, fourth grade is so very young to be getting into coding. And this is what we say to our students, and we encourage all the learners up and down the country. Get into coding early. Enjoy working with code. The more you work with code, the easier and less frustrating it becomes. And sure, you're always going to have those difficulties that are hard to overcome. But if you can enjoy that process and that challenge, it really helps so much. And yeah, that's really great to hear. And it is also worth saying, I think, you're being very modest, but CodeMonkey is multi-award winning as well, is it not?
Yes. And every year we're seeing more and more recognition, more and more awards. I think we're going to see more of that in the very near future. We're going to be adding some things to CodeMonkey that are very, very exciting. Again, becoming more of that core curriculum. Coding is great, but there is a huge need in the States as well as, around the world for students to be digitally literate. And so we really want to help bring that to both the students as well as support teachers in it, because, we know that teachers are not always comfortable with teaching something that's outside of their wheelhouse, and coding can be very intimidating. So I think CodeMonkey does a great job of making it super easy, super engaging for students, and, will allow teachers to enjoy teaching it as much as the students enjoy learning from it.
That's really important. Enjoyment and learning is really important. And it sounds like you have the same challenges in the US that we have in the UK.
So many parallels. Yeah. All right. Well, this next question, and as I say, what makes CodeMonkey great? Well, loads by the sounds of it. And I understand, by the way, if you just want to give some brief answers, because a lot of this, I'm guessing, might come out more naturally, as you said in the demo you're going to give us. But if you had to give us the top sales pitch, what makes CodeMonkey great?
There's something for every student. You can start a student at the very beginning or anywhere in the middle of the courses. You can choose the language they start in. There's a lot of flexibility. Teachers can use it for whole class instruction. We provide all of the resources to support them in that, such as lesson plans and videos, or it can be self-paced by the student. And they can work through it at their own pace and with what makes them comfortable. So there's lots of flexibility in how to use it. I think one of the biggest points, and I don't think that it's lost to repeat it multiple times, is how easy and fast it is to use for the teachers, how very little they have to know nothing about coding in order to get this started. The setup is easy, and they have great support on our end internally. So I think overall, as a teacher's resource, it is very important in terms of exposure to these concepts and what we know our world is moving towards in terms of technology. And it just does it in a way that is super easy for the teacher and very engaging for the student. So I think that's
so important.
And it's about collecting bananas, right? What could be more fun than that?
Yes, absolutely. And helping to build a dam with the beaver and put a roof on the house. And so there's lots of practicality in there. It really encourages students to use critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. There's a lot of math involved. So it's also a great opportunity for cross-curricular instruction when we're struggling to find time in the school day to introduce things, that in some places are considered elective or extracurricular. And CodeMonkey makes it easy to use it in a lot of different ways.
The more you talk, the more you realize it's exactly the same problems in our schools in sort of England, Wales, Scotland, and probably everywhere else. It's the same challenges we're all facing. Yes. Right. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. I'm just going to come out and ask straight away. So there you go. If someone sees this and they're super keen, and also, is this something schools in the UK could take advantage of? Is it purely geared towards the American education system? Could they get benefit? What are the costs to CodeMonkey?
Sure. So we have partners all over the world. Depending on the country that you live in, you may go through our partner, you may go through us directly. Pricing outside of the US may be a little bit different, but in general, in the US, you're looking for a classroom license, about $15 a student. If you were doing a site license for an entire building or school, those start at about $1,400 and then go up depending on how many students would need to be included at that site. And then, of course, at a district level, the pricing, of course, you get discounts for quantity. And so, you know, it would be a scale from there. So typically, the more you need, the salesperson for your region would work with you on providing a quote, but on average, $15 per student.
Okay. So going on I did a quick currency conversion while you were talking. And so at today's exchange rates, that's before discounts, about £1,000 for your school if you go for a site license kind of approach. So typical of the kind of thing we might get here in the UK. But as you say, you can do it on a per student license as well if whole school licensing isn't for you. That's fantastic. And can people get going for free? I mean, can they try it before they buy it, as it were?
Oh, well, that leads into our next question nicely, Dave. Good link.
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple things you can do to get started. We do have a free trial on our site. So if you go to CodeMonkey.com, and there is a trial page where you can request a 30-day free trial as a teacher. If you want to do a multi-teacher trial, I always encourage you or your viewers to reach out to us because we can set up a more custom trial or pilot, if you want to call it that, to kind of get a whole site-wide experience. But we definitely have the free trial online. And interestingly enough, we also have free trials and parent plans. So if parents want to try it at home for their own children or have it available to them at home, we have plans for that as well.
And it's worth me saying before we move on to our viewers, I probably should have said this earlier and I forgot. This is not a paid promotion. So no. Craig and Dave are not receiving any money from CodeMonkey for this video at all. And this video is not monetized at all. So there's no ads, no sponsors. We get nothing from this. The reason we do it is because we want to promote what we think are excellent educational tools. So that's why we're doing this video, and we probably should have said that right at the very beginning. So this is not a paid promotion.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, we're not being paid to say nice things. Well, I'm quite excited then, really. I think probably I'm quite keen to actually see it. This will be the first time as well that I've seen it, so I'll just pour that on there. But I'll hand over largely to you now, Angie.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So again, I'm super excited to be able to show this. And today, there's so much to CodeMonkey that we could really do an hour-long demo. But for purposes of today, to just give your viewers a taste of what CodeMonkey offers, I want to go ahead and focus on our more popular courses, some things that are coming, and all of the progress monitoring tools and resources that we provide for teachers so that they see the type of support that is in the app, in addition to the support they would have with our support team. So the courses tab here on the left-hand side is really the meat and potatoes of our program. As a teacher, you get this view with all of the courses included in your subscription. As a teacher, you can click into any of these and play them as a student would. So there's no need to create a student account. As a teacher, you can just play through as a student would. All of our courses are organized by the type of language that they are teaching. We teach 3 different types of programming language, starting with block-based coding. That's typically for your K through 2 students. And then you have your text-based coding. They begin that right around grade 3 through 5. That's still your primary school, I believe, on your end. This is, again, the text-based beginner. And then we move into more of our Python coding, which is more intermediate. And the logical progression of this is as students move from block-based through text-based and then through Python, that inevitably they will be able to come down here to our game builder and challenge builder. And we'll look at this in a moment. So that they can apply what they've learned through all the courses to create their own unique and original games and challenges. So I'll go ahead and start off by showing you our CodeMonkey Junior course. I've disabled the sound, although there is really fun sound behind the game itself. And so it's important to also mention this is gamified, so it is a little more engaging for students. And, you know, a lot of students have goals and say they want to be able to create games when they get older and want to pursue that as a career. So this is a really great way of introducing them to that.
Really important at such that young age as well, though.
Yes, really to pull them in. And what I like to do is to start off by showing you, remember, this is, you know, for your littles, students beginning age 5, maybe to age 8. And what I like to show is, where are we 15 challenges into this introductory course? You can see there's a lot of graphics behind the scenes. There's a lot of movement going on. There's several blocks in front of us. And the student needs to, of course, use these blocks to help the monkey collect the bananas and get to the treasure. So we want to go ahead and put in the correct steps, or the student would, and hit run. And so if the student has put in the correct code, we see that the monkey is going to go collect bananas and he gets the treasure. And the student is given a star score right away. 3 stars is the perfect score. It means that the student has collected all the bananas. They used the concepts that were being focused on in that particular challenge, and they used the shortest code possible. So the star score will reflect whether or not they completed all 3 of those items.
And that's great, isn't it? For logical thinking, for getting the students to start to appreciate that an algorithm might solve a problem, but it might not be the most efficient solution. And so it gets them to think critically as well as logically.
Really early on, even if they don't realize they're doing it.
Yes, absolutely. And so you can see this is really engaging. I will be honest, I had to play through this as part of my training. And as an adult, I thoroughly enjoyed it myself. So if that says anything. So if we jump now back to the first challenge, you'll see the difference from where they first start. Very little movement. The graphics have come down a little bit. And we've only got 1 block. And again, this is how our program can be self-paced without a teacher's instruction in the classroom. We actually start off cueing the student with what they need to do. So we need to hit the block to make monkey step right 1, and then we hit the run button. So you can see that's where we start, and then just 15 challenges later, we are up several numbers of blocks. There's a lot more going on. Critical thinking skills, problem solving skills are needed to move forward. And each challenge just scaffolds on top of the other, as do the courses. So it's important to note that children or students must complete part 1 of the course before part 2 will open up.
Right.
And that's also about introducing new concepts in small steps, which is, you know, critical Rosenshine principles. So this is built on sound educational pedagogy as well.
Yes, absolutely. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what our block-based coding does for your K through 2 students. Very gamified, appropriate platform for them, or user interface for them to be able to engage. And as you can see, there's 4 parts to this particular course suite. And as I mentioned, each student, the student must finish this portion before they can move on to the next. Yeah. The next course I'd like to show you is the Coding Adventure, which again, this was the course that started CodeMonkey. This is the first course that launched. It is still one of the more popular courses that we offer. And students get introduced here to the text-based coding in a variety of ways. And I'll do the same thing I did with the block-based. We'll start off in challenge 33. So the first thing we notice is that anytime a new concept is going to be introduced, we have a video, an embedded video. Student can click onto this and be given all the background information they need about what a variable is. so that they are prepared to complete the challenge. We all know that students are going to kind of click OK, and they're not going to watch the video, and then they're going to need to return and revisit it. So we provide it on demand here at the top right-hand corner. At any time, the student can click on that, and when they hit play, they'll be given a short tutorial on what a variable is and how it's used. In Coding Adventure, students are going to be presented with coding and needing to solve challenges in a variety of ways. Sometimes they'll be given a blank slate and they will need to create the code line by line on their own. Other times, such as in this challenge, and we'll take a look at it in a moment, the code is provided, but there is something wrong that needs to be corrected. Other times, the student is given most of the code, but there may be a line or two that is missing, and so they have to complete it. In this particular challenge, it doesn't really tell you or give you instructions on what you need to do. So by instinct, we're just going to hit run. And what we're going to notice is that the monkey is not quite making it far enough to capture those bananas. So here's where our teacher assist pops up and tells the student, take a look at the value of X. There's something there that's wrong or not right. Well, if we look at X, X is the number of steps the monkey has to take to get the banana. Currently, that's set at 5. We know that isn't correct, but how do we figure out what is the correct number of steps to take? Well, we provide a ruler here, and if we drag that over to the monkey and then over to the banana, we are given the number of steps it will take the monkey to get to that banana. And we simply need to edit the code to the correct number of steps and see if that worked to fix the problem.
And of course, I guess that nothing stopped them just doing trial and error if they hadn't spotted the ruler. But even so, that's still problem solving, isn't it? Oh, they get a bit further if I put 7, but still not far enough. Is that right?
Exactly. So if the student doesn't notice the ruler, and just so you know, that those tutorials that are embedded, one of those does introduce the ruler.
Sure. Okay.
So the student would know that it's there, because it is actually used quite a bit in several of the challenges. But we provide tools, and again, we're really trying to use different skills, or have the student use different skills in order to be successful with this challenge, including being able to use tools like the ruler, or like you said, being able to just problem solve. And what happens if I put in 8 instead of 5? You know, and that may not be using the tools, but it's definitely problem solving and encouraging the student to explore and be creative in finding solutions on their own. So definitely something that's fun, engaging, but still educational. So moving from here, like I did with the other, we'll go back to the very first challenge and we'll see if this was challenge 33, where does the student start with the very first challenge in this course? And we will notice we get a little introduction here, and we can see the big monkey's going to take the little monkey's bananas, and we have to help him get him back. So again, if we push OK, or we'll assume we watched the tutorial, just like with our block-based coding course, we're going to start off showing the student what they need to do. And from here, we scaffold, again, adding something every time until we get to where we were at challenge 33. And it's important to note that Coding Adventure has over, I think, 280 different challenges within all 4 courses together. So it's very comprehensive compared to even the block-based that doesn't have quite as many. This also has a skill mode, which allows students to open up additional challenges, because we know practice and repetition are what makes students successful. So as they play through this, they also open up additional challenges in our skill mode that they can work through. As we move on, here's those skill modes I was just referencing. So as your students work through part 1, this will become open and they can start working through this one as well to get that additional practice. We then move into the banana tails, which is the Python. That gets a little more complex, so I won't jump into that. But I do like to touch on it only because, as I mentioned before, the natural progression is that students would work their way through these courses and inevitably be able to build their own game. And we give them an empty blank slate to be able to do that. They can choose whatever background they'd like to use. They can also choose whether they would like to use text-based or block-based coding. And then once they create their project, you can see it is a blank slate, but we've given them all of the tools and functions to utilize to create their own game that is unique and of their own imagination. And that really is where, as we say, the rubber meets the road, where you know the student has really grasped what they are being taught and they are able to apply it in real time. And the last thing that I'd like to share of our courses really speaks to CodeMonkey previously being seen as more of a supplemental coding curriculum. But we've made some changes recently that have really kind of thrown us over the peak now of being more in the core category. And the reason for that is we have added our digital literacy suite. These are the first courses that have been added to CodeMonkey that are not code related. We have a huge need here, at least in the States, for a complete computer science, technology, and coding curriculum. And this is CodeMonkey's first step in that direction. We have provided these two courses, digital use and digital citizenship. Each of these is 16 weeks long, if done 45 minutes once a week. And we can see the digital use is really going to introduce students to how to use computers, as well as digital tools like search engines, email, slide decks, spreadsheets. There's a typing component in there. Under digital citizenship, super important, learning about being a good digital citizenship or citizen, responsibility and respect, cyberbullying, phishing attacks, and how to balance being on digital devices with real life. So some things that are very important, but not necessarily coding related. And then 16 weeks is a long time for one course, so we do offer the same information in a much more condensed version in the mini course. So as we're talking about this and our movement into being more of a core computer science curriculum, I do want to say keep an eye out on CodeMonkey over the next 6 months to a year. We're going to be bringing some additional non-coding courses to our subscriptions related to data and how to read it, use it, present it, as well as AI. So I would definitely encourage anyone interested to keep their eyes out for when those will be released.
Hot topics.
Yes,
AI.
yes.
Yeah.
And I should always give the disclaimer, we never know when they're going to release. They're in the works right now. And of course, we market heavily when something like that is dropping. So if you are following social media or our blog, then it will be posted as soon as those classes are available.
So CodeMonkey is really moving from just a pure programming platform, which it excels at, to something that, as you say, is more holistic in terms of a computing education. Again, thinking about the information technology aspects, as well as being responsible digital citizens and everything that means as well. I have a question about that, because obviously you're based in the US.
Yes.
So how is it relevant to the rest of the world? How can somebody picking this up in the UK, for example, know that the language that's being used and is suitable for our learners in our country, and equally any other country in the world, and isn't just sort of US centered, as it were?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, definitely, when you say language, do you mean like the language of the interface itself?
I'm just thinking more in terms of, the everyday lived experience of students. I should imagine there are many similarities between the US and the UK, but I should imagine that there are some differences as well. So I was just wondering whether, this is sort of agnostic, as it were. Is it suitable for any learner anywhere in the world?
It really is. As I mentioned previously, we have many, many partners all across the world, hundreds, over 140 countries. So, and never have we really gotten major feedback that it was problematic for applying these concepts or lessons in other countries at all. It's, again, very, very flexible. Also, we do offer, this just speaks to being diverse and having the ability to be diverse. Currently, we do also offer our platform in multiple languages. So not only do we have something that is flexible and applicable to anyone in the world as far as the concepts being taught, but we are constantly working on adding different languages as well, so that students and teachers can work in a language that is most comfortable for them.
So it's not about specific US issues or specific issues that only US children might face. This really is about, being a responsible digital citizen is a universal skill. It's something that every child in every country needs to understand, irrespective of where they might live.
Absolutely. And then coding, as well as things like AI. And I don't know about in the UK, but in the US, I know one of the challenges we are finding our students have right now is data interpretation, learning data education. How do we use data? How do we make it relevant? How do we present it? How do we build a story around something using data? How do we look at maps and determine, how to use them to get from point A to point B, or how to use a map, for example, a heat map to determine what state in the country might be the coolest during the summer. I mean, our students in the US at least are really struggling with that type of skill. And so bringing something like a data education course or an AI course, these are things that are either lacking, that students need more support in, or that are on the cutting edge of technology. And these are the content areas that our students will be working in as careers as they, move into adulthood. Yeah. So that is always going to be universal, whether, you're in the UK or the States or Israel. Those types of jobs will need people to fill them. And those.
I think it's quite nice because often, sorry to interrupt, often companies like yourselves and like us, we can ultimately sometimes be a lot more responsive and adaptive than necessarily government level changes in education. I don't want to get into a whole politics thing, but I don't know what it's like in the States, but it can take a long time sometimes for something which is cutting edge and relevant and needs to be known now to end up filtering down through government and exam boards and whatever the structure may be. But that doesn't mean, say, AI at the moment, ChatGPT, hot topic, everyone's talking about it. Teachers are losing their mind about it over here. Should we be banning it? No, we shouldn't be banning it. Well, how should it be used responsibly? It's a tool to be taught. And you have the ability to, as you say, adapt more quickly to that. Whereas guidance, often at a national level or actually the size of the US, can sometimes be a lot slower to filter down. Schools are scrambling for guidance here. So that's really interesting.
Yes. So we're looking forward to expanding our offerings and adding to that. But the program continues to get more and more robust as we add. And the final thing I did want to show you, and then we can take more questions.
Yeah,
if you
let
have
me
them.
pop that back on. Yeah.
It's just the teacher progress monitoring tools. I know, even though CodeMonkey is easy to use and teachers don't need any experience to use it, they still are going to want to make sure that their students are making progress and actually learning the concepts they're being taught. And we offer a lot of tools to be able to do that. This one is the progress monitoring tab. Basically, we're looking at a course, a specific course by student, and getting a visual representation of their progress challenge by challenge. So that's one way that you can monitor student progress. We also provide quizzes for some of our courses, specifically the Beaver Achiever and Coding Adventure, to assess student understanding of the concepts that are being taught. We offer a grade book. Here you're allowed to select multiple courses the student may have worked in to obtain a grade for each course, as well as an overall grade for all 3, or however many are selected. And then I don't know about the UK, but speaking specifically to the US, the proficiency the goal for a lot of districts and states right now is to expose students to computer science and coding concepts. And I hear it stated that way quite a bit. Like, that is, in many states, it's being mandated that students beginning in kindergarten be exposed to these topics. The proficiency tab here, what it's doing is aggregating all of the data from every challenge a particular student has worked in, and it's breaking it down by concept, not by challenge number or course. And it's giving the student a proficiency rating in that particular concept, depending on how they've done through all of those challenges combined. And as you can see, we begin at novice and move our way through advanced. Every student starts off with a completely grayed out row. And the hope, of course, is that we start seeing them populate with 1s, and then they move to 2s, and then 3s and 4s. And this is really important for those schools and districts that do have to show evidence to the state that they are providing this exposure to their students, because it shows not only what concepts they're being exposed to, but to what extent they've been exposed to. So that's a brief overview of the progress monitoring tools that we offer. And finally, to support teachers, we also offer teacher resources, as mentioned. I love the way this has been recently redesigned. If we click into find resources by course, if we were starting off with the first course in CodeMonkey Junior here, you can see we provide everything the teacher might need to use this platform within the classroom and whole class instruction, starting with lesson plans, videos, certificates of completion, and classroom posters that reinforce the concepts that are going to be introduced here. And then you can look at that for any course. And then we also provide the solution for every single
the all-important solutions.
Yes.
That's what the teachers want.
For every solution. So teachers don't have to work each one themselves, and they can use this as a guide to walk a student through if they're caught up, or if it's used at home. Solutions are also provided to parents so that they can do the same in terms of guiding their student to the correct answer.
Really important for helping to support those non-specialists, or just maybe teachers who are not quite confident in something. It's so similar to so many of the challenges and the problems that Dave and I are trying to help solve with other providers in the UK. It's just so interesting, and it looks great. That's the first time I've seen that, but it strikes me there's a few products I can think of here that do bits of what you said that I know schools use. The various products. We'll use this for block-based programming, and then we'll use this for next. But the fact you start and then it integrates through, and then there's a nice text base, and then onto an actual established language, Python, and you can literally go from absolutely nothing at 5 years old. And then
after students have finished that beginner, so we start off the program I showed you first, CodeMonkey Junior, that is the beginner course or the novice course. The next one up is the beginner. And once students complete that suite, they actually can start going back and creating their own games if they select the block-based option. So very quickly, even though they don't get all the way through Python, they can be reinforced by being able to go in and start creating things of their own imagination and doing after having maybe only a year and a half of coding time and education.
Well, Angie, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, because I'm genuinely really impressed. And as I said earlier, we like to promote things that we think are educationally sound and really add value to the student experience. So and teachers too, of course, but it's ultimately all about the students. So thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely fantastic. And Craig and Dave, we like CodeMonkey.
Wonderful, wonderful. We want everyone to love CodeMonkey. I want to thank you both again for having me on. We really, from a company perspective, appreciate the time that you've given and really hope that teachers find this to be a helpful resource for them.
You're welcome. Thanks again for joining us. All right,
You're
cheers,
welcome.
everyone. We'll catch you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.